again, there's no evidence that the platform has been guilty of disseminating disinformation. It's a content generated platform, and so users are on the platform are very sensitive, and the success of the platform is because users and the algorithm that they're using there is bringing up content that they're interested in. And so it's a different platform, for example, than Facebook in terms of how information is disseminated. And people on the platform are primarily using it and generating their own content. Recently, of course, there's a lot more users that are searching on for news. But again, there's no evidence that that TikTok or ByteDance is influencing the sort of the content that users are actually interested in seeing on a day-to-day basis. And so the disinformation issue is tricky. Now, that doesn't mean that a recent allegation happened, that Chinese government-backed users of a TikTok account were targeting or were using the platform to do things related to the election. So that's a separate issue. But the actual platform itself, there's no evidence that it's purveying disinformation. And again, this is a user content-driven platform.
Right. Paul, before we wrap this conversation, do want to go far ahead into the future, beyond the court case, let's say everything gets the green light and, this divestment can't be avoided. Who will actually take up all the assets of TikTok? Who really has the wherewithal? Which entity in the U.S. has the wherewithal to take all the assets and the user base and all the data and whatever comes with it? We're talking about 105 million users, U.S. users on the platform. There's some talk about private equity players throwing their hat in the ring, but how do you see this playing out if eventually it gets to that?
It's a good question. Well, the first question would be, would ByteDance agree to this forced divestiture and be looking for potential buyers? The problem is that the Chinese government is unlikely to approve this type of a forced, essentially merger and acquisition, right? So any kind of divestiture and then merger with another company or acquisition would have to be approved by the Chinese government, which would probably reject that, and it's probably advising ByteDance that it would reject that. So the problem is still seeing how a company, Microsoft or Walmart was involved early on in 2020 with becoming a potential owner of the company. It still remains to be seen who would be willing to sort of take this on. There have been some discussions among some players in the U.S. because it is a very valuable property, obviously, with 150 million active users, and so there would be interested parties, but they would be concerned about getting this through something like a Chinese antitrust review. And then, of course, China also controls the algorithm. It would have to approve the transfer or licensing of the AI algorithms that are used on the platform.